Guys, the multiverse has a new villain on the block, and his name is Rick Prime. That's right, thanks to Evil Morty resigning from his presidential duties by breaking the central finite curve, corrupting all the portal fluid in the process, Rick now has to reset the portal index. I'm just gonna pretend to know what that means. It sounds scientific. But your boy goofed up and accidentally reset all the portal travelers, roping the most unfindable man in existence back to where he came from. Are you lost? Cause I am too, kind of, so let's just get into it. Rick Prime is now home, and with the portal index yet to be reset, it's hunting season for our Rick Sanchez. It's clear as day that Rick Prime is now acting as the big bad for Rick and Morty. We wrapped up the Evil Morty saga, and now it's time for a new overarching main villain. We may know Rick Prime as the man who murdered our Rick's Beth and Diane, but the reality is his influence on the events of the entire series cannot be understated, and the recent revelations of the season 6 premiere only hammered that in further. So as Rick and Morty moves into brand new territory, we heard the Roundtable thought it'd be appropriate to recap and break down everything we know about Rick Prime. All the hints planted throughout the show since season 1, his relation to Morty, and why he's been so hard to find all this time. Our hope is that by laying this all out on the table and connecting all of these dots, it'll be easier to figure out his endgame moving forward. But real quick guys, let's take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Scentbird. Look, we all want to smell fresh, but navigating the world of fragrance can be more than confusing. From endless expensive colognes to confusing and pretentious names, it can be daunting. Luckily, that's where Scentbird comes in. Scentbird is revolutionizing fragrance when it comes to how people discover, shop, buy, and even experience their scent. Scentbird is the first stop on your fragrance journey and lets you deepen your relationship with fragrances, discover your style, and build your collection of curated scents that you love. You can utilize the incredible power of fragrance to express yourself and your individuality. Scentbird lets you choose a new designer fragrance to try every month for just $17. And every month you get to pick exactly what you want to receive, so there are no surprises. If you're into a lot of options, they have perfumes and colognes as well as a ton of unisex options. With each fragrance, you'll get a 30-day supply so you can try out fragrances before committing to a full-size bottle. Some costing over $150, and some even higher at $300 to $500 a bottle. I don't know about you, but I am extremely broke and I still want to smell good. You can even discover new fragrances by taking a simple quiz on Scentbird. Instead of getting a bad grade from a teacher you hate, you'll get suggested fragrances you love based on your preferences, previous purchases, and quiz answers, which is just a way better deal. If you're a classy man that respects the OGs, Scentbird also carries Prada, Gucci, Versace, and other niche brands. Make sure you use coupon code Roundtable for 55% off at Scentbird. That means it's just $7 for your first month. Available in the USA and Canada. The other month I received 3 amazing scents: Book, Confession of a Rebel, and my personal favorite, Sage Supreme. I feel like they all give off a mature but comforting scent, like being at a fancy dinner party with a scholarly headmaster, or eating a steak with your significant other's dad. I absolutely love how powerful yet understated these scents are, and I found myself reaching for them whenever I headed out or just wanted a little confidence boost. Once again, I want to give one last big thank you to Scentbird, and if any of this is interesting to you, make sure to check out the links in the description box down below and discover the world of fragrance. Alright, back to the video. So without further ado guys, here's everything we know so far. So the best place to start would be actually addressing the name Rick Prime and how it affects the evolution this character has had in the writer's room. When this Rick first popped up in the Rickshank Rickdemption, he lacked a proper title other than Dickhead, and wouldn't properly be named until he appeared in Pocket Morty. He would be made available as a costume at Salesman Rick's shop, being referred to in-game as Weird Rick, which would be adopted by the fandom as his canonical name. And while you may be thinking, oh, it's just some gotcha name, I'm not going to take it too seriously, we can actually pinpoint where the name is referenced in the show. Season 1's close encounters of the Rick kind, which we all remember for its iconic introduction to the Citadel and Evil Morty, features a scene where quote-unquote Evil Rick displays a leaderboard he made of Ricks across the multiverse, ranked from evil to least evil. While our beloved C-137 Rick gets to gloat about his rank as number 1, Evil Rick himself is oddly only number 3. In between them is an unidentifiable Rick that Evil Morty points out as the anomaly, simply calling him super weird. And that's our first key detail. Rick Prime has always stood out as a top-tier Evil Rick. Obviously, he's depicted as just a normal Rick here, but that could be explained with the reality that they had no idea how Rick Prime was gonna look all the way back then. I mean, come on. The team already admitted they revisit old story-heavy episodes before writing new ones. Plus, in the context of the episode, it's just a bit about how all of these Ricks in the spectrum look the same. Still, considering he was given the name Weird Rick during the Season 3 era, makes this moment feel like less of a coincidence. Not to mention, this is also the episode that mentions the central finite curve, alluding to Rick's backstory and, again, Evil Morty. So it'd be weird for all of those details to end up factoring into the overarching story, only for this one to mean nothing in the grand scheme of things. It just doesn't add up. Not to mention, we know why he had a name change. We already had a Rick Prime. Don't believe me? Go on Google, type in his name, go to images. How do you feel? Feeling real low IQ, huh? I'm just kidding. I hear you typing aggressively. Please chill. But yeah, before the Council of Ricks ceased to exist, we had a Rick Prime with a curly mohawk and sometimes a soul patch. That's definitely a look. Who really had no significance at all and ended up being murked in the Rickshank Rickdemption. So the likely scenario is that they were calling the new Rick Prime Weird Rick internally for the longest time. And once they began writing season 6, they realized we should probably give him a name that won't sound super goofy after they embraced the name Evil Morty in canon for a bit. I really don't think they like that name, considering they made a joke about it in both Rick Morty Jack and Solaricks. Sidebar, saying these absolutely goofy, stupid names in a serious, theorizing tone will never be lost on me as one of the goofiest things in the world. I wear it as a badge of honor. Okay, back to the video. But while we're talking about him, since we know Evil Morty was controlling his Rick and clearly has known more than he lets on for a while, it's possible he's actually trying to test our Rick here to get information on Rick Prime by pointing out his super weird, standing in the ranks, aiming to get a reaction out of Rick, and being met with disappointing results. It's cool to look back on the show and think that even if they didn't have every detail figured out, they knew Rick Prime would be a big deal even back then. And honestly, seeing how the story panned out, it's kind of perfect, and I'm here for it. Now let's talk about the first time we actually meet Rick Prime. Inside Rick's slightly altered memories, back in the Rickshank Rickdemption, Rick Prime arrives into C-137, Rick's home, as if on cue, while Rick is trying to develop a portal gun for simple teleportation, rather than interdimensional travel, signified by the blue portals. Rick Prime is on the scene to speed up the process, presenting Rick with the knowledge of inventing interdimensional travel in this dimension, pitching it as godhood, the ability to escape consequences, with nobody being able to stop him, claiming Ricks don't pass on this when C-137 declines the offer. This is the second detail. Rick Prime has a green goblin complex, feeling entitled to power, devoid of attachment, and taking it upon himself to, quote, liberate other Ricks from their own attachments so they can achieve godhood.
Gods don't have to choose.
You can't take no for an answer, and for all we know, may actually have an agenda around Rick's becoming self-absorbed dimension hoppers. When Rick pushed back against Prime, Prime decides to motivate Rick with vengeance, blowing Diane and Beth to smithereens. This prompts Rick to crack the code on interdimensional travel and embark on a galactic, multi-dimensional journey to find Rick Prime, slaughtering countless Ricks in the process. Though, through this we learn the third and fourth key detail about Rick Prime. He's a master of illusion, with his inability to be found, and he seems to be sought after by other Ricks as well. One of them, our C-137 Rick Shoots, had a red string conspiracy board of numerous Ricks around a tapestry of what would become the Citadel of Ricks insignia, meaning before the Citadel was formed, there could have been a cult of Ricks promoting a similar idea of superiority, and the Rick killed by our boy here was trying to organize all of the Ricks part of said cult with the hopes of finding their leader, which from what we've known was probably Prime. This idea is corroborated in season 6, Solaricks, as Prime's pre-recorded message isn't talking to a specific adversary, implying he has a pretty extensive rogues gallery. Of course, he did tell Cronenberg Jerry that he was naked to mess with Rick's head, so it isn't too unreasonable that he had his video message be addressed to anyone just to bruise Rick's ego, but also, if Prime is hiding from numerous Ricks who were wronged by him, he could still be doing both. Speaking of Solaricks, let's wrap this up with the season premiere. Check out our breakdown to get the gist of the episode if need be, but here we learn key detail number 5. Rick Prime is Morty's true grandpa, and C-137 Rick was just assuming his place at the start of the series. Morty is attached to and loves the Rick he spent the most time with, but he's bound by blood to the one who lit the candle in the first place, fundamentally changing the way we look at the show. But this also means that Rick Prime is the Rickest Rick, not ours, which C-137 admits at the end of the episode.
He's the real deal.
The post-credit scene also drops a major bombshell. Key detail number 6, Rick Prime is effectively immortal. Cronenberg Jerry tries getting the jump on Prime by slitting his throat, leading to Prime pulling an Uno reverse card as the rune regenerates in an instant. He also hasn't aged a day since his encounter with C-137 Rick, appearing exactly the same time while our Rick has drastically changed in appearance, at least twice between his look and age during the Space War and his current near senior citizen status. Our Rick already has quite a bit of cybernetic enhancements and a handful of ways to recover from serious injury on short notice, but Prime seems to elevate things to the next level. We also learn that Rick Prime works alone, claiming partnerships have been planned out for him in the past. After declining Cronenberg Jerry's alliance, he might be looking for our Rick and Morty, given that he asked if Jerry ran into them for reasons unknown. Prime seeing Morty tagging alongside Rick would have been the first time that he met his true grandson, and knowing his grandson is already capable of surviving high-concept sci-fi adventures may have piqued his interest, especially since this is now the only family Prime has left. To cap things off, I want to leave some food for thought with what I find to be the key detail through Solaricks. That detail being, Rick Prime is literally playing God. We've seen Rick grapple with having a god complex throughout the series, as he became increasingly invincible, and it's clear Prime has a complex, but he takes it to a completely different level. Let's unpack what this base in the Prime universe really is. It's a place where Rick Prime gets to be an all-knowing, all-seeing, invisible man in the sky. I mean, come on, what else does that sound like? He doesn't want to be perceived unless it's to push Ricks towards their destiny. He thinks he knows what's best for every Rick out there. He wants to remain in control, he wants to be revered as a god. When you look at previous seasons, a lot of the one-off episodes tend to play into a general theme. Something Season 4 went out of its way to challenge was Rick's status as a god, accumulating in the Season 4 finale where he gets humbled and has to accept that if he's anything, it's just a bad father and a bad friend. So I don't think it's coincidence that Solaricks is followed up by an episode where Rick has to clarify he's not a god to the non-playable Mortys within Roy, despite having a message of truth from another world. Rick in the show itself is now directly opposing Rick Prime's ideology, and if they're doing that, you know the season finale is about to have shit hit the fan with a confrontation for the ages. At the very least, I want to know Rick Prime's skincare routine, because that guy is looking good for his age. Jeez. Smartest man in the galaxy. You should have a partnership with Sephora. Anyways, there you have it, all the key information we have about Rick and Morty's newest big bad villain, and with this information, we can get to theorizing. What do you think Rick Prime's ultimate goal is? Do you think he wants to seek ownership of Morty or the family? Maybe he just wants to be friends with all the Jerrys or something. I don't... Cut that. That was stupid. That was dumb. Let us know in the comments down below and keep the conversation going by giving us a follow at Roundtable Vids on Twitter and Instagram. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Check out the links down below, including Toon Drip if you want sick cartoon clothing. I'm Nemo. This is a Rick and Morty breakdown, and I'll see you next time. Peace.